Yes, good evening, Africa. It's that time of the week again when we can start to unwind and look forward to the weekend. OMG. We got some heavy hitters on the show tonight. Cyrus and Kaunda, they've been talking NBA since the beginning of NBA, all right? And of course, the rise of African stars, and later on our Nigerian brother, Adeoladipo. He's going to bring on some hot fire tonight. So we'll be in the hot seat as we take a look at the rise of Bareknuckle fighting. But first, it's a warm winter welcome to the queen of all queens, Kaunda. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, I forgot, we don't do that anymore, right?
We can do it one more time, Arthur. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much. Best introduction ever. You've got me blushing a little bit.
Yes.
Now, action-packed 30 minutes coming up with 3 of my favorite hashtag, and I call them hashtag Kwese Kings because that's what they are. And it's going to be such a fun show. Arthur, back to you.
Wait. I hope I am one of the Kwese Kings.
No, you are the Kwese King. You're the Kwese King. Yeah.
All right. Well, as the whole of Africa gets to have a look at the other Kwese Kings, it's a great pleasure to welcome to the hashtag couch Cyrus Rogers and Kaunda Chama. Welcome back to the couch that matters, guys.
Wait, before you guys even answer, I want you guys to acknowledge the shade that Arthur threw at you guys' age, saying you've been talking NBA since
I was about to go there.
That was throwing shade on how old y'all guys are.
There are some people who've watched Steph Curry play all his career.
There are
some guys will always be new to certain things. So, we're not going to... Acknowledging your elders is never a bad thing, Arthur.
Africa, how do you feel about this? Welcome, guys. Wow. The Raptors are champions, Kaunda. Let's start with that.
Yeah. We can also start with this T-shirt I'm wearing right here. Toronto Raptors, big up. Yes. Look, the Raptors winning that championship was one of the best things that could happen to the league, Arthur. I mean, personally, even as a LeBron fan who was at Cleveland and now is in LA, I got a bit tired of the Cleveland playing Golden State all the time. I actually would have even loved if it was a Rockets-Raptors finals. To me, it would have been perfect. And the Raptors taking it, good for me.
Well, the USA is not happy, Cyrus. I mean, any Canadian franchise that beats any dominating American team, I think, would always have a ooh. So
I don't even know if that's it. I don't even know if that's it because it's such a feel-good story. This Raptors win was so good for the entire nation of Canada. It also showed that the NBA's faith in expanding into Canada has finally paid off. Who would have thought that 24 years after the Toronto Raptors were formed, they become champions of the NBA? And this is what you actually want. You don't want to just feel like, okay, we're going to tap into this market and then hope they just give us money alone. Canada got behind this team. And everybody else was like, why not? Because the other thing about what this says is that sometimes the smaller teams can make it to the top. That's what you want.
And we had Drake, of course, who I think he thinks he won the NBA
He
final.
definitely did. He was like the 17th man,
You can't be mad at Drake. I mean, he's the international ambassador, so he had to get behind that team. And I think...
But as the assistant coach, Kaunda, the assistant to the assistant.
Look, as a Warriors fan, I understand how irritating it could have been for you guys.
This is a basketball fan.
No, I'm a basketball fan. I wasn't irritated. I just wanted him to drop a few bars. Yeah, I'm a Drake fan.
He's a basketball troll, though, as well. But speaking about the NBA awards that happened recently now, Giannis Antetokounmpo, MVP, very well deserved. No, Kaunda?
Yeah.
Kaunda, I couldn't have been happier. I mean, I think I was very happy when Toronto won that championship, but when Giannis got that MVP, because I've been beating the Giannis drum. I mean, I call him the Nigerian Targaryen. He's not the Greek freak to me and Cyrus, he's the Nigerian Targaryen. We've been beating that drum, and when they announced that he was MVP, I mean, that was a great win for Africa. It was a great win for Milwaukee. Giannis himself, I mean, if you listen to his acceptance speech and all the trials and tribulations he's been with that have led to this point in his career, and he's now an all-star, he's now an MVP. All he needs is a championship now, and, he goes...
He's got it all.
He's got the trifecta. So,
wow.
I think what's also been so amazing is, you know, the Raptors had that, you know, underdog story. And then you've got Giannis, who picked up the ball at the age of 12, you know, and they lived all in one room, his entire family and things like that. So, and of course, the African story. And his mom was also shedding some tears. It was nice.
Oh, everyone was crying, Cyrus.
Yeah. Oh, look, I don't know if I cried. Right? It was certainly dusty in the room I was in. I had to dry my eyes a little bit because, you know, they were getting affected by something.
I've got allergies.
Yeah, you know, the allergies acting up.
Yeah,
but I think the thing about the way Giannis' story unfolds is very much an African story. People forget that sometimes we can't always make it where we want to go by staying on the continent. Sometimes you've got to spread your wings, and this is what Giannis' family did. They actually even left his older brother behind in Nigeria when they initially moved to Greece.
Wow.
So himself and his younger brothers were all born in Greece, and from there they were like, look, let's make the most of this. Let's see what we can do. And I think the other thing about this was that he lost his dad not too long ago.
Yeah.
And so all of this culminates in him being, you know, the head of the family as such, and he's done it not just for his family, but for all of us.
But Kaunda, I feel like Joel Embiid was the first Giannis, you know, in the sense where the injuries were kind of just coming in the way and he wouldn't reach the same.
The first Giannis. Giannis is the first and only Giannis. Look,
I knew that would spark some problems.
There were times when Joel played at MVP caliber, but obviously his initial entry into the league, Arthur, was also marred by injury. I mean, he had to miss 2 seasons, was that, Cyrus? With a foot injury, and not to take away from the skill of the young man. He is very skilled. I mean, he's one of the dominant bigs in the league at the moment. But Giannis is Giannis. There's the reason they call him the Greek freak, although we don't acknowledge that.
All right, so there isn't anyone better than Giannis. Pascal Siakam, I think the numbers that he put up in the finals as well were quite impressive and competitive.
They really were. I think the thing about, and Pascal's story is even more insane because he grew up in Cameroon. He's born in Douala, and he came to Johannesburg in 2012 for Basketball Without Borders. He was one of the campers who was here, and so that transition into the NBA via the college system really shows just how well it works if you put your mind to it and you knuckle down. Pascal's not better than Giannis, though, but he's on the same path because Giannis won the Most Improved Player of the Year award in 2017. Pascal just won it now. So if you're looking at Giannis won the MVP 2 years later. I'm not saying Pascal's going to be the MVP.
Of course.
But he has the potential. I mean, who would have thought? Young Pascal. I mean, you remember when he was here last year for Basketball Without Borders on the African continent, and we spoke to him, and we hinted to the fact that he might start benching Serge soon. What happened? He's benching Serge Ibaka. So he's on an upward trajectory. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be MVP in 2 years, but he is gonna be Giannis-esque.
One of those kinds of players that teams will be counting on. And Siakam's skill set is very unique because he's got the length to defend, he's got the length to attack. He is one of those guys who plays with heart, and he doesn't seem to be bothered by the big occasion. To score 32 points in the first game of the NBA Finals, in your first ever NBA Finals, says a lot about who you are as a person. So Pascal Siakam, we're big fans of his.
Big fan.
But I mean, guys, how have the rest of the African players done? The likes of Victor Oladipo as well and Serge Ibaka. How's their season been? What are the fans across, you know, the NBA fraternity speaking about the African counterparts?
Look, unfortunately, Arthur, Victor Oladipo went down early in the season with a season-ending injury. He should be back sometime December, January. So that messed him up. I think in terms of most improved, not MVP, maybe most improved conversation, he could have been in there. Because he did improve a great deal, but the injury obviously messed with him. Serge Ibaka, he's a vet now. So in terms of improvement from where he is, I don't know.
But in essence, and I think that Arthur's question here, though, is that looking at it in terms of not just the improvement, but their performances. Because it wasn't Victor Oladipo the most improved player last season.
Yes, it was.
You know, and so you look at the way he was really bringing that Pacers team to the next level. And I think that if he had remained healthy all the way through the season, we'd be talking about a different Eastern Conference because the way he plays, he's just so dominant sometimes. And what I like about it and what African basketball fans are loving is seeing how many of our brethren are just finding the wherewithal to become some of the best players in the NBA.
What took it
not
so
just
long?
role players.
What took them so long?
Well, sometimes it's a mindset thing because you forget sometimes, Kundai mentioned this now, Giannis picked up the ball when he was 12. For a lot of these American guys, they've been playing from when they were 4 years old. So, you know, you always feel as if you're an outsider learning the game. And a lot of these guys were like, well, okay, I might have only learned the game fairly recently compared to you, but look at what I can do. And this is what the NBA is betting on, because this Basketball Africa League will produce some other talent as well.
I was about to say, yeah.
The NBA Academy in Senegal will produce a lot of other talent. Mark my words, Kaunda and I were talking about this on our website, postupzone.com, that there are going to be players that come out of the NBA Academy now that will become stars from the African continent.
But what structures have been put into place for the Basketball Africa League in 2020 to be successful? I mean, just in the month of May, I think it's Amadou Galofo who's been appointed as the president for Basketball Africa League. But all these different 16 other African countries, will they be able to match, you know, the type of pressure and the type of demands that an NBA overseas can put on week in, week out?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
The NBA have been working very closely with FIBA here. Remember that the Basketball Africa League comes directly off the Africa League that FIBA has been running. And that's been run very, very well. Yes, there will be teething problems here and there, but the teams also understand exactly what they need to do. The other thing here, and this is where the NBA is very different to everyone else, because domestic flights in America are relatively easy to come by. So you can get across the country fairly well. Getting across the African continent is always a problem. There's visa issues, there's plane issues, there's all sorts of issues. So those kinds of things logistically will have to be handled up front, and the NBA are well aware of that. So the Basketball Africa League is something that they know they're going to be able to fast track. I think they've spoken to all of the participating countries. We'll just find out who the teams are as the time comes.
Okay, so I'm going to cut in there because we're running out of time and we have to have this conversation. Biggest letdown of the season has to be that of LeBron James. Moves to the LA Lakers, gets injured, misses a bunch of games and didn't even make it to the playoffs. Is this part of the transition for LeBron, or is there a bigger problem in the Lakers locker room?
Do you really want to make Kaunda cry?
Yes, because
this is what you're going to do.
It depends on what you define as a letdown. If a guy gets injured, it's like now calling Kevin Durant a letdown. It's not a letdown, he was injured. And LeBron James was injured.
Before the injury, he wasn't really performing at the levels that
people
are expecting.
But this is what he does every time with every franchise.
But look, LeBron James obviously went to a new franchise, and there was young players there. There was still a bit of chemistry issues. And when you're playing with a player at LeBron caliber, the pressure that comes onto you. I mean, you ask if you can find from any of his former teammates at the Miami Heat, at the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Kevin Love, Isaiah Thomas, he made it work. Come on, Kaunda.
No,
or maybe not Isaiah Thomas.
Not Isaiah Thomas. But maybe Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving.
But coming to the Lakers that he found, I mean, the likes of Lonzo Ball, you know, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, those are youngsters. They still needed to grow, and to grow in a system that incorporates a LeBron type player. And LeBron puts a lot of demand on you. You can ask even the likes of Dwayne Wade, who have played with him, the likes of
not
Kyrie
just
Irving.
The players, the coaches.
The coaches as well. So, you know, that year, even he knew he was not going to see far into it. Maybe he expected an appearance in the postseason if he didn't get injured, but he did get injured. So that changed things. But he knew it was a building year. That year was a building year to see who fits where and how things can work. So it wasn't really the biggest letdown. If you ask me, the biggest letdown was the Boston Celtics. But I think that's a discussion for us.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, guys, you know, we have run out of time. Cyrus and Kaunda, always wonderful to hear your passionate insight into the NBA. Thank you for being on Hashtag this evening. Coming up, Felicia gives us her lowdown from the world of social media. And in just a few short minutes, Adeola Dipo makes a welcome return to the studio. Stay with us.
Hi there, Hashtaggers. Today, I wanted to share with you a breakdown of what were my favorite comebacks of this year so far. In no particular order, I start off my list close to my heart, with Tottenham beating Ajax on 8th May 2019 in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-finals by a scoreline of 3-2, with a hat-trick from Lucas Moura, including an injury time-winning goal scored in the very last seconds of the game. The result meant that Tottenham won the tie via the away goals rule, thus advancing to their first ever UEFA Champions League final against fellow English side Liverpool. Which, of course, brings me to my next incredible comeback from Liverpool. Down 3-0 after the first leg at the Camp Nou, Liverpool did the unthinkable at Anfield turning around the tie with 4 answered goals in one of the greatest comebacks the Champions League has ever seen. With a 3-goal deficit and without 2 of their famed front 3 in Mohamed Salah and Roberto Firmino, both injured, Liverpool got 2 goals apiece from Divock Origi and Jorginho to shock Lionel Messi and Barcelona 4-0 and reach the Champions League final. But perhaps the real historic comeback of the century comes from Tiger Woods, who won his 15th major and his 5th Masters title at Augusta National this year. Facing an 11-year drought and fighting back from behind 54 holes, he rose. Woods underwent a spinal fusion in 2017 after suffering from chronic back pain, which made his career comeback even more unlikely. He fired a final round 2 under par 70 to finish on 13 under 275 for a one-shot victory to capture the green jackets. An All-American trio of 3-time major winner Brooks Koepka, world number 2 Dustin Johnson, and Xander Schauffele shared second on 276. His historic win and powerful comeback have seen the golfer jump straight into the global trends board. Fans and foes have applauded the golfer for beating the odds and rising up to take the victory despite his personal strife, health issues, and career lows. Did I leave your favorite comeback out? Let me know, Kweze Nation. Baki Salama.
Yes, our guest really doesn't need any introduction. He's a sports nut. He has 14,000 YouTube subscribers. Oh, subscribers! I don't even know how to say that right, and growing each day. But he also possesses the most beautiful beard, oh my God, I have ever seen. On the 27th of December 2018, Ade Oladipo recorded the following clip.
It's done. Our hoodoo's over. Liverpool are winning the league. I'm saying it now. What is it, December 28th, 29th, whatever it is. We are winning the league. Come May 7th next year, I will be at Anfield holding a fake trophy because we are winning the title.
So that was the 28th of December, right? Are you guys champions now?
I said the Champions League. If you rewind it back...
No, you did not. You said the league.
If you rewind it back, I didn't specify what league. I said I didn't specify...
City fan
what
now?
I'm trying to say is I didn't specify what league. I thought when I mentioned it, and Gavin was right there,
No.
I mentioned...
Who's Gavin?
Gavin is our producer. I mentioned...
No, he's not.
I mentioned Champions League, not the Premier League. I just want to get that out of there.
Oh my goodness! But
And that don't even look like me. I don't think that's even me
what?
anyway.
That is you.
I don't think that's me.
Are you a
That's not
Manchester
me.
City fan?
That guy was a lot darker and his beard was a lot bigger. That's certainly not me. That's not me.
Wow. All right, so now we're switching to the stories up to today, the start of the Premier League in a few short weeks. Of course, Ade and Kaunda being a Chelsea fan, and you're a Liverpool fan. Boo, hoo, hoo. Are you expecting the same routine, right, of Manchester City being chased by the rest, or do the other big teams have a real chance of contending for their lives?
Absolutely not. No, it's just Liverpool, Man City. It will be Liverpool, Man City, I think, for the next 2 or 3 seasons. Chelsea have just lost Hazard. Manchester United with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer don't know what they're doing. Arsenal look absolutely...
Liverpool have Klopp.
We're the greatest right now, aren't we?
No.
Tottenham might push us, I'd say us in terms of Liverpool, Man City, away like they did last season, but I expect it to be Liverpool, Man City again. I think they're so far in front of everyone right now.
But Kaunda, we also lost Maurizio Sarri. Like, who's going to be our manager at
huge
Stamford
loss
Bridge?
at the moment. I know. I've been having a little bit of a cackle because of, they're thinking Lampard is coming in, and people have already got the hashtag that we'll be using when we get angry, Lamp out. So, it's going to be very interesting for Chelsea. I think we're going to have another tough season, but, we bleed blue, we hang in there.
I like it. Honesty. Honesty. It's good. Be honest. Be honest with what you know is going to happen.
Honesty. John Terry has come out to say if Frank Lampard takes the managerial position, then he might just throw his toys up in the air. And, what's your take on that, especially from a one-player perspective? And he's literally Mr. Chelsea.
He's Mr. Chelsea, but he's like, what, assistant manager at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Frank Lampard done a good job with Derby County, so he's actually proven-ish in the Championship. So John Terry's got to get a managerial position first before he starts moaning, but he is Mr. Chelsea, almost like Steven Gerrard is to Liverpool. So go somewhere, get your manager positions, get something underneath you, and then maybe you'll get the Chelsea job in a couple of years.
All right, well, moving on from the beautiful game to the brutal game. Ade, you are a huge combat sport fan, bare-knuckle fighting championships. Now, what is it, and why do you think it's growing rapidly in popularity?
Let's kind of start backwards. It's growing rapidly in popularity because people just like to see people fight. Unfortunately, that's what it is. Whether it's guys coming out of the pub, whether it's guys in the boxing ring, an MMA ring, people just want to see people fight, right?
And girl fights as well, of course.
And girl fights as well.
The girl fights.
And girl fights as well. And it is quite brutal. Some people like it, some people don't. It is bare-knuckled. As you can see, they're wearing no gloves. They wear a bit of hand wraps, but that's it. You are literally, it's all guns blazing.
But it just feels like mixed martial arts all over again in the early 90s, you know? Like the combat sports part of it, you know? For the fact that it's bare knuckles.
Yeah.
If you remember very, very, very early in the 90s when mixed martial arts and Dana White's and the UFC guys were on the rise, you know, they didn't have any padding, they didn't have any gloves.
Yep.
So I don't know, is this a repetition of that?
It is like that, you're right. UFC were like that in, I think, the early stage. I think from UFC 1 to like UFC 10, no gloves. But you can't kick in this. So there is no jiu-jitsu. This is like boxing standing up.
Okay.
It's a bit more brutal than that, but this is just boxing. So there is no jiu-jitsu, there is no wrestling. This is just
getting
stand
knocked
up.
out by Anthony Joshua Oga. That right hook from the Nigerian now shall knock you up forever.
Yeah, I think the argument there, Sam, with regards to the gloves, is that the gloves were introduced in boxing, I think, 1910 or something. And that's because people used to fight bare-knuckled, but they used to hurt their hands. So the gloves are only there to help your hands, not necessarily help the opponent's face. It's the same kind of impact. I know it looks more brutal because of the bruises and the cuts, but that's the argument that's being made now, that the gloves actually don't do anything aside from protect your hands. You're saying a lot of these guys fight and break their hands, and that's all it's serving. So they're getting legalized. I mean, they're legal in a few states. I mean, the numbers are growing as well.
And do you think it's mainly because I feel like a lot of the sporting disciplines, you know, boxing, there's always this need to sort of evolve and get more people in? Is it? Do you think that's the reason why it's on the rise? Because it's just a little bit different, a little bit more brutal. People want to see a little bit more gore.
Yeah, people like that. There are some people like myself as a purist who likes to see a real good boxing match between two guys that have shown a lot of skill. Some people just like to see a barroom brawl. There are reasons back in the day, like Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward, not the best skill set in terms of a fight, but in terms of just wanting to see guys go at it. This is kind of like that. So it's almost got its market for guys that like a bit of blood and guts, and I think it's going to keep growing. I mean, it had their pay-per-view event on Saturday. The numbers were good, relatively good. So, I mean, it's a problem for UFC and other fringe boxing bouts. This will grow. It is growing. It's going to get legalized in more states, more countries. It's here to stay, people.
But Ade, think about it in this regard, right? What if I decide to now take up, you know...
I think we should stop you right there.
I mean, I decide to go up against you, right? You're a seasoned, bare-knuckled boxer, right? And I get a certain big a paycheck for the kind of services I'm going to bring to the ring, and I lose the fight, and all my money is given to you. How am I supposed to feel about that? Because I believe there's a similar story that broke in just over the weekend.
Yeah, there was something. Kind of their last, the last bare-knuckle fighting championships, I think this was a couple of months back, one of the fighters, the owner of the combat sport came in and said, you didn't fight enough, I'm going to withhold your purse. People went crazy, eventually he got his money back. So there is something like that where he does want to see you fight. And that's what the crowd are paying their tickets for. They're not paying tickets for people to run around. They are paying tickets because they want to see blood and guts. So you can understand how he's working. But again, it's getting better, it's improved. The last one had Paulie Malignaggi, had Conor McGregor's friend Artem Lobov. If it can get more big names and pay them, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to compete with boxing, but it's going to be up there. It's definitely going to compete with lower MMA style of fights.
Wow.
Well, now from one fight sport to another, boxing. Now, the poster boy of heavyweight boxing, Anthony Joshua, your boy.
He's not my boy.
That you've been denying.
He's not my boy. I don't know him.
Now, what's next for him after losing his belt to Andy Ruiz Jr.?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm still in shock. I've not seen you guys really since then, have I? I've not been on it, but we've not had a chat. It's disappointing. Look, this is boxing. Anything can happen. There is a rematch scheduled for November, December. If he loses that, If he loses again, then that's it. It's done. It's done. Especially him being the poster boy, the guy that brings all the sponsorship in. I mean, you can't lose to the same person twice. All greats have lost, and we spoke about this before, but not to the same person twice.
Where are they going to fight? UK, America?
There was a lot of talk about it being in Mexico. Obviously, Andy Ruiz Jr. is from Mexico. There's some big money backers in Mexico. UK, Wembley's one of the first options, but we are going back to MSG New York. He's going back to try and right the wrong in America. I think he's stupid to do that. You take every advantage you can. If you can fight in London, you fight in London. Why do you want to go back to New York where you got beaten up? Don't do it.
And you've been very vocal about it on Twitter. I see you're starting lots of fights as well there on Twitter.
I am.
You guys must follow him on Twitter.
It's the greatest Twitter page. Ade_Oladipo1. Follow me. It's quite funny. You know what it is? Because I'm a big AJ fan. I know what he's done for the sport. It was disappointing to see him lose, but I also know what he brought to the sport 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
He's the reason probably I'm even in this seat. He's done so much in terms of globalizing boxing. So I do want to see him come back, but I don't want to see him come back straight away against this guy. Have a fight in between. Why is your ego so big that you've got to try and right the wrong straight away? Have one in between. It's not a shameful thing.
Interesting. Well, Tyson Fury now ranked #1 heavyweight in the world. I don't know how you feel about that, being a massive Anthony Joshua fan, but this must throw boxing into a spin now.
It does, but it's good for boxing. I think any sport where there's only 1 or 2 people dominating isn't good. I mean, it will. Anthony Joshua fights Deontay Wilder. He loses, one of them loses, that's it, it's done. I think once you can have 4, 5, 6 guys involved, I think boxing's got that now. Just not just Tyson Fury. There's a guy called Alexander Usyk that's there. Andy Ruiz Jr. now is there. Dillian White. I think you need more people. I think the only thing it's struggling with is getting those people to match up. But I think more names or more fights is good for boxing. I think a lot of casual fans that maybe kind of go in and out of boxing just want to see Wilder versus Joshua. I don't.
I want to see that.
I want to see Wilder versus Fury, and I want to see Joshua versus Fury.
But it just seems like it's going to happen in 2020 and not any time this year.
Dude, it might not happen in our lifetime. There's some fights that don't happen. I mean, Lennox Lewis versus Riddick Bowe is one of those fights that never happened. Riddick Bowe versus Mike Tyson. There's so many good fights between heavyweights that don't happen. Fingers crossed. The money's there now. There's a lot of money in boxing, more than there's ever been.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed it can happen.
It needs to happen. It needs to happen. I mean, I'm just jumping onto boxing now, and I feel like all these boxing talents are around me. I want to see Joshua Wilder. So are you absolutely saying that it's not going to happen at all? At all?
I mean, look, we were close now, and Andy Ruiz kind of upset the apple cart. There's this thing where all boxers think they're going to remain undefeated and somehow meet in this perfect scenario. It doesn't happen like that. Deontay Wilder's fighting a guy called Luis Ortiz, who gave him a tough fight in 2018. We saw Tyson Fury nearly beat Deontay Wilder. I think he did. So it doesn't work like that. I mean, not everyone can be a Floyd Mayweather or a Rocky Marciano. People will lose, and when you do lose, unfortunately, you lose the opportunity to fight for the big bucks.
Wow.
Okay, well, you did mention Andy Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua possibly fighting again. Well, that is on the cards.
Yeah.
Do you think he can retain those belts?
I don't think AJ can get those belts back against Andy Ruiz. I have to be honest with you.
Why?
I mean, that was just a boxing match and he got outboxed. There's a lot of stories that he was ill in the lead up. Fingers crossed they are true. If they're not true and he came in 100% and got beat by that guy, then it's not enough time in 4 months to somehow become a better boxer than you were 4 months ago. Does he look the part? Yeah, he's got all the muscles. But the fact is, it's a boxing match and Andy Ruiz is just a much better boxer than Anthony Joshua, my Nigerian brother. It's painful for me to say this. It's hurting me. I'm not going to... It's going to hurt me, but it's true. It's hurting me to say it, but I don't think if they match up again, they could match up 100 times, and I think Andy Ruiz would beat AJ 100 times. Styles make fights.
I remember on your Twitter, just after the fight, you know, I think Joshua came on and he congratulated him, and you came and you weren't happy with that. And then there was a picture that I think was taken while he was in the States riding a bicycle down the road.
Livid.
And you were livid, and you said that that is not... how a defeated man should look, how someone angry that he's lost his belt.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all different. Everyone takes negativity a different way, right? But I think if you're any top athlete or any top person, if you lose, you should be livid. Anthony Joshua was in the ring, smiling, taking photos, on a bike in New York, kind of dealing with all these sponsorship obligations. And I was like, what are you doing? We're hurting for you. I'm hurting for you. My village in Ogun State, Nigeria, is hurting for you. And here you are cycling. And I'm like, no. It doesn't seem like a guy that's upset about losing. And that's a scary thing for me. You should be upset about losing, especially upset losing that to Andy Ruiz Jr.
You know what I'm upset about? It's the end of the show. Like, that's it.
Can we ask for more airtime?
I'd love to.
5 more minutes? Can we do 5 more minutes?
I'd love to. But anyway, oh my gosh, that's a wrap. Ade, it's been amazing working with you over the last year or so. And to all all your guests, all our guests actually that have also been here. Kunda, I don't know who I'm leaving out. Any of the special kings and queens?
No, everyone, every single guest has been special. No, of course, we have to give a big shout out to Ziklo and Felicia, who aren't here today, but have been part of the family, and all the producers and everyone behind the camera who is really amazing and crazy.
It has been a blast, Kunda, and thank you for being part of this amazing journey. It's been great. It's been lovely. It's been African. It's been questified, right? Yeah. All right. Well, there we go, Africa. Thank you for tuning each week. And from the rest of the questified hashtag family and the African lovers right here, it's adios for now.